Loading snacks.
You're gonna see some Mortal Kombat content coming out of here for probably the next few weeks. As we kind of get into the hype leading into this movie. So I just wanted to take today to kind of go over who my top Mortal Kombat characters are. And I asked Jokes about it, but Jokes said it was too hard to make a decision. And I kind of understand that
Hmm.
because this was kind of a difficult thing for me because the criteria for deciding who my top characters are for a lot of people, I think would automatically be based in like who you use the most often or what characters you like
Mm-hmm.
to play as the most often, but that's not necessarily what this is. Like there's such an iconic history and story around a lot of these characters that some of the characters that I like because of what their stories are. Um
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like if you're a Mortal Kombat fan, this may or may not surprise you where some of the characters are, but let's just jump into it. My number 5 is probably a lot of people's number 1 is Scorpion.
Mm-hmm.
Now, look, having been a fan of Scorpion from the very beginning, he's the only character besides Sub-Zero, I think, that's in every game.
Okay.
I think. Um, yeah, I think that's right. Anyway, he's been there from the very beginning. And truthfully, he's easily the most iconic character from
Mm-hmm.
Mortal Kombat. Like, even if you don't play Mortal Kombat, if you don't care about fighting games, you've all heard it. Get over here. Like, everybody knows that. If you ever went to arcades when the first one or the second one came out, you would hear that. That was the thing that drew you over to the game. Mortal
Mm-hmm.
Kombat 2 came out. It was get over here and it was toasty. Like, those were the things
Yep.
that, like, drew you, to it. Besides the fact that they looked like real people, you know
Right.
what I mean, as opposed to like 2D sprites or whatever, and the violence. Like clearly, the violence was a big draw. But Scorpion, also like ninjas were and always have been cool, as is martial arts. So
Mm-hmm.
Scorpion, number 5. Number 4,
Not mad.
Sub Zero.
Sub-Zero.
Now let me just say this: Sub Zero has a very complicated and convoluted history.
Mm-hmm.
The Sub Zero that exists now isn't the original Sub
Is the sub?
Zero. Died and then became Noob Saibot. Like, it's a whole lot going on with Sub Zero. But as a character in using someone, I think Sub Zero gets the best new moves with every iteration in terms of like
Mm-hmm.
what they add to Sub Zero as a character. Um, always like the standard like freeze ball kind of thing, but then there's always like he has the statue or he has to slide or he's as like they just do a really good job of like I feel like amping the character up. Where Scorpion it feels like stays more or less the same across
Mm-hmm.
every game. A little more Ken and Ryu for Scorpion
Kind of.
than Sub Zero is across the board. I feel like Sub Zero actually evolves more with every iteration in some manner. And so that's part of why Sub Zero is ahead of Scorpion for me personally. Um, Now, for a long time, my favorite character was this character, my number
Mm-hmm.
3, which is Liu Kang. And the strange thing about Liu Kang is that from a story perspective, Liu Kang went from being my favorite in like the first 2 games
Mm-hmm.
to story wise ending up like on the bad side and dying and turning into a zombie again.
Mm-hmm.
Mortal Kombat has a very rich yet convoluted history.
Type of.
And then like I just yeah, he just kind of fell off a little bit, but like the last couple of games, he got that like resurgence and ended up being like a whole god. So if things change, Liu Kang ends up being my number 3.
Dig it.
Now, my number 2. This was kind of difficult for me because for a moment, this was my number 1, and
Okay.
truthfully, on any given day, maybe it would change. But Jax.
Jax.
So here's the thing: introduced in Mortal Kombat 2, Um, the game. In the movies, like these new movies, he's in the first one. You kind of get some of the backstory or whatever. But like Jax in the last couple of games, he's not in the newest one. He's not in Mortal Kombat 1. It's
One.
so confusing trying to tell you what's going on with
Well,
that. Eh,
not play.
no, right. Well, that's what, like, he's not playable. So like,
Yeah.
it doesn't count. He's not in it.
Yeah.
Where, but in the last two, straight
Yeah.
beast, and his dog, like Jackie, a monster in Mortal Kombat
Jackie
X
Briggs.
and 11. Like, kind of ended up being my favorite character, and she almost made this list. Like, she would be my honorable mention. She almost made this list. But Jax is just, in terms of speed, strength, and just like just overall, like I love the way Jax plays as a character. I love the combo system. I love the change ups that they give him, and I like what they did with Jax as a character when they finally brought him back around after like the last ones. Hold on now, Wiz. TJ Combo doesn't have metal arms, sir. So like, while Combo got the combos, Jax will rip Slim's arms off. Like, I just don't. I think Jax. I gotta give Jax a little extra. My number one, and I feel like this is controversial. Smoke.
Okay.
Listen, I don't care what version of the game you play Smoke in. Slim is a straight up monster. Just a straight up monster. And again, I actually had Jackie in the number one spot for a moment, and I was like, nah, but Smoke, not unlike like Reptile can be incredible, but Smoke and Noob Saibot and Ermac, like, it's tough, bro.
New
Like,
Cybot.
Smoke is a monster though, and especially in this last game. Like,
Yeah.
Smoke was hands down my favorite character in the most recent game in Mortal Kombat 1. I just think that his moveset, teleports, like just everything is it's so well done, it's so well put together. That as of right now today, Smoke is my number one. Now, in the future, like in the next couple of weeks, what you're gonna see is I'll be putting together a list of my favorite cameos
Okay.
from Mortal Kombat, because and then I'll do like my favorite secret characters and stuff that came up, because starting with like Mortal Kombat 9, when they started adding like Freddy, they've had Jason, they've had Terminator, they like
Terminator.
RoboCop, like they got all kinds
A
of
whole
like,
bunch of.
like special characters, Spawn, like they have all kinds of characters or whatever that have made cameos in the last like 4 or 5 games. And I think it'll be totally worth kind of going through that list and looking at what my favorites are. I think that'll be dope. Andrew said if they don't do a Butcher DLC for the next MK game and have some interesting dialogue with Johnny Case, and I'll riot. You know what? That'll be absolutely fair. But I'm gonna be real with you. I don't know when we're getting another Mortal Kombat game.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a while.
Well, here's the problem. So NetherRealm, right, who is the developer for Mortal Kombat, is owned by Warner Brothers, and with the whole Warner Brothers and DC and being bought out thing, like there's a lot of limbo with what's going on with that studio and what's going to end up happening with it, as well as who will own the IP. I would love to see Ed Boon be able to take NetherRealm and move to somewhere else or become an independent and do something separate. But right now, it's very difficult to see what's going to happen with that. And the DLC for Mortal Kombat 1 ended so abruptly that a lot of the rumors were that it was because they were being pushed into working on a new Injustice game, which I would have been
I'm not upset.
100% behind if they were doing an Injustice 3. But again, with all of the turmoil that's happening with WB and DC and those characters and all of what's going on with that, it's just so very difficult to know what's going to happen with that. It would probably be safer for them to make another Mortal Kombat, but I'm also not completely positive that this last Mortal Kombat turned the numbers for them the way they really needed
Mm-hmm.
it to. And I think that the DLC and the pricing was egregious
Mm-hmm.
for getting skins and different, like, all of that kind of stuff. So while I enjoyed the game and I liked the gameplay and I thought the story was really good and I thought the story DLC was really good in terms of where it was going, and them actually using this one to reboot the franchise and kind of reintroduce characters and kind of give them new stories, new storylines, and
Mm-hmm.
rewrite some of that kind of stuff. I think there was a lot of potential in that, but it's very difficult to know what that's going to mean or where it's going to go from here on out. And again, like, what they've been able to do with those characters is like being a part of Warner Brothers and DC. They had access, like, you had Joker as
Mm-hmm.
a cameo character. Like, they just, they've had a lot of access that I just don't know that they're going to have the same kind of access to, depending on what happens with this. So um NetherRealm being one of my favorite studios in terms of just like, they do a game, they stick to that genre. They make a
Mm-hmm.
fighting game. That fighting game was Mortal Kombat. That's what we make. That's what we do. And outside of that, the other fighting game we make is Injustice, and it's basically Mortal Kombat without blood. Like
Yeah.
like staying in their wheelhouse and doing what they do, I think, is one of the few things that a lot of studios just don't do anymore. A lot of
On there
studios try
for
to
it.
do a little bit too much or something like that. It's a little tricky. Wiz said I haven't played MK in a minute.
Takeda.
Last guy I played was Takeda. Let me tell you something.
Takeda is
Takeda was a
actually
monster.
solid. Dog.
Takeda was a monster. A little scorpion, it's like some scorpion,
Mm-hmm.
but definitely a monster. Like, I like Takeda a lot too. Um, there's always characters like, look, man, and there was a time when, like, Bo Cho was my guy, which is a terrible
Mm-hmm.
thing to say, but that's that was the truth.
Dog,
You know
look
what I
at
mean?
like when I found my one dude who got one Mortal Kombat game, and that was Kung Jin, and I got monstrous with
You
him.
did get busy. You did get busy. And there was some
And
moments like Kung Lao was my guy for a minute too.
mm-hmm.
Like, there, sometimes, man, even if I don't really love the character, but I love their finishers, I will use that character.
I would use character.
Use that character, bro. Yeah. So you'll see over the next couple of weeks. I'll have some other Mortal Kombat lists that are coming your way. Look, I'm
Dig it.
totally glad to hear what y'all have. Feel free to share your lists, that kind of stuff. I'd love to highlight some of those things over the next few weeks as we get ready for the movie, because we're going to see the movie, and we're definitely going to do a spoiler boys and talk about
Mm-hmm.
the movie and all of that jazz. It'll be a movie that we will be going to the theater to see. So love to talk about that. Now, honorable mentions. Again, for this list, it's very difficult to not. I love Jackie Briggs, love
Yeah.
Ermac, I love Noob Saibot. Like, I'm generally the ninjas. Reptile is kind of in and out for me. Not a huge fan of, like, Baraka, but there was a moment where I did
Baraka.
really like Cassie Cage.
Okay.
Sonya actually had a moment for me too in 11,
Okay.
but she wasn't no Jackie. She wasn't no Jax. They were like, yeah. I think I'm about to go play one of them joints.
Good boy.
Yeah. I just so visceral. Like, there's just something that feels really good about playing Mortal Kombat, and the sound of the strikes, the hits, like, it just, yeah. There's something
Mm-hmm.
so great about it.
No.